Top 17 Banjo-Kazooie Worlds is up on the channel now. Yes, right now. Link in description. Open it in a new tab. Watch it after this. Do it. Binge me! Binge me! I'm tasty! Welcome to Unmasked, a video voyage of all things villain. I'm Fawful's Minion, your alliterating overlord, and this is the Metroid Prime. As any world veers towards the end of its width, anybody still left fighting for it is gonna feel like they're stuck in the dark. It's kinda why fighting alone is a hazard. Nobody can keep your shadow from pulling you in. Metroid's early endeavors of good versus evil have always felt kinda, I don't know, tangential. The main hero ain't Metroid, the main villain ain't Metroid. They're just animals, lady. Chill yourself, not the flying Roomba turtles. Well, we were once basic animals too. So, it ain't over till it's over. Logic's own prophecy was fulfilled. A Metroid eventually did become a major villain in the series. So major that it owned its own damn trilogy. And possibly more. Without thinking about the constantly changing future too much, let's just study history. The intense chapter which Nintendo's darkest alien menace heat-pressed into our flesh. This is a platinum patron pick for my good buddy Philip Cross. Enough waiting for 4. Evil's gotta evil. From origin to powers, to drive to feats. Which number are you in the gallery of rogues? Join me in hand, this mask's coming off. The prophecies tell of the coming of the worm. Born from parasites, nurtured in a poisoned womb, the worm grows, devouring from within until the world begins to rot. The words of the seers have come to pass, for there, in the depths of the world, the ravenous worm lurks and feeds. From the stars it came, blinding Talon with its great poison. We can but watch as the worm grows. Watch and wait. From the terrified minds of exalted apex avians, this written nightmare helmed a calamitous collision course. A home which the Chozo race called was doomed to burn by the bleeding venom of a dark seed. Would it be a bad time to mention that the birdie bozos make a home on literally every planet they can? What, right in the middle of scary story time? Nah. You right on time, Nostradamus. By chance, Talon 4 was the site of impact for the first of these fabled seeds of darkness. Living, breathing meteors whose irradiated cyan blood matched the great poison's every last atom. Infamously chronicled as Phazon, this mutagenic ooze's reality met every horrifying expectation, embedding into the planet and rewriting its ecology, instantly killing all who couldn't endure and violently mutating any strong who could. Reducing even great galactic guardians like the Chozo to malevolent spirits, doomed to resist their inevitable corruption in eternally suspended animation. But the absolute to end it all was the so-called worm which kept this doomsday prophecy. Not a worm, but a Metroid, claiming territory of the virulent asteroid. It possessively feasted on the Phazon like an apex super predator, catalyzing what would eventually snowball into one of the most dramatic mutations in all galactic sci-fi. Through an eventual strife with the prophecy's hero, the cruel carapest Colossus was dismantled to its larval core, prioritizing survival. This meager blob grappled onto her Phazon suit and ripped it clean off. The perfect mold for the Metroid Prime to sculpt its final, most infamous, and most powerful form.
Dark Samus!
Everything about this creature's origin is primo science fiction scripture, pairing the gravitas of an apocalyptic vision with the turbulent uncertainty of nature's dispassionate advance is ridiculously scary. Sure, a monster was expected, and thankfully a hero was foretold with it, but the fact that it was all by chance that the universe's next greatest evil was nothing but an animal existing in the wrong place at the wrong time. That eats through my skin. And how this wild Metroid attained cognitive sapience that it never asked for, waking up to overwhelming thoughts of existential domination. It sounds frighteningly similar to our real-life evolution story. A cosmic accident so perfectly disastrous, you'd swear it wasn't an accident at all. So, a pulsating deep space meteor studded with tentacles crash lands in your front yard. Oh yeah, and it's bleeding electroplasmic cotton candy bubble yum. What do? Suck on it like the whole titty, of course. All it took was for one Metroid to say would to rewrite the glowing tips of the food chain, poignantly mirroring Samus even before directly replicating her shape. Specimen Prime is a horrifying amalgam of all three states of power: natural, humanoid, and incorporeal. As a genetic mutant of an already infamous species of interstellar predator, the talons which tore into Talon 4 are sharp and massive. Its base exoskeletal form is built for primitive brutality, using its gigantic armored shell as a full-body football helmet and comboing its tackles with slashes from its knife-like legs. At least, that's what an animal would do with such a body. Eerily enough, Prime parrots both Samus's arsenal and fighting style, even back when it was a guardian dressed in a symbiote suit. Clearly the great poisonous venom. Many different ranged attacks burst from the demon arthropod. Electrical, glacial, plasmal, and even the exact same basic beam defaulted to Samus's arm cannon, which I presume is a contained mix of solar and nuclear. I would normally recommend her to invest in wind, but the whole chopping up birds thing is... yeah. Exoprime can expel each element in both concentrated beam streams and semi-homing cluster blast a la Charge Shot. It also has its own missiles and grapple beams, snaring prey for a gruesome crunch of its megalodon-sized jaws. Defensively, its barbed carapace has little equal, with not a single thing on record able to pierce through. Worse even, all propulsive energy is repelled, easily stifling attackers with their own poorly aimed projectiles. But by shedding its shell, its own effective power suit, out pops Zero Suit Satan. Prime's core essence is notable for its ability to alter its body's photons, shrinking and enlarging its own electromagnetic wavelength to limit its visibility to only X-ray and infrared imaging. It can also spawn other Talon 4 variants of lesser Metroids, classic larvals, adolescent hunters, and get this shit off me! But that's nowhere near the most deadly thing it can spawn. Consumption of the Talon 4 Leviathan's core mutilated this monster into a tentacled radiation generator. Behold, Phazon, the very revelational sludge which terrified the Chozo Oracles. Understanding the Metroid Prime's true power all hinges on grasping just what this nightmare ooze is. Phazon is a liqueform giga-organism of inconceivable biologic and electromagnetic toxicity. And I ain't just respelling the dictionary just to sound cool. Superorganism defines neither its nature nor lethality. It's a corruptive, sentient goo, almost incongruous to known science. Typically electrical in force, the blood of Planet Phase makes for devastating laser fire, vaporizing even reinforced organisms like a taser net to a housefly. Its voltaic power can't be understated. There hasn't been a single non-alien projectile of Samus's stronger than the Phazon beam. I know this because Prime 3 is the easiest game in the franchise, solely because we unwillingly inherited Dark Samus's horrid firepower. But it ain't all concussive force, whizzing and ramming via levitation, spawning illusory replicants called echoes, force field generation, surging and collapsing crystallized phazon from the floors and sky, withstanding and flying through the vacuum of space, short-range teleportation, as well as contact-free energy absorption. Alas, all harmless compared to Phazon's utmost evil, corruption. At the peak of her power, Dark Samus attained the ability to possess and control beings. Through the Phazon, she blasts into their nervous system, genetically enslaving individuals as smart and powerful as Ridley through this effectively supernatural neurotoxin. Through this almost ghost-like snaring of free will, Dark Samus is the envy of every tyrant to ever live in and out of fiction, and is made by far the most powerful villain in all Metroid. She overtook Ridley and his entire faction, and only barely didn't do the very same to Samus. And you want to know something really scary? Unlike the similarly coded X-Parasites, Dark Samus's corruption has no overpowering vulnerabilities, no vaccine, no preventative variable to fully nullify its effects. Even the highly experimental PED suit overloads from critical concentrations. Now, listen, the rabbit hole for Phazon is abyssal in depth. Relaying everything Gygas's moisturizer does would turn this into a multi-hour video essay, and I don't really like those. It can permeate machinery, alter general physiology, debatably transmute your soul, and technically the entire Ing species are Phazon entities. So all the hyper-cosmic bullfuckery you see in Prime 2 are extra footnotes to Dark Samus's potential power. But it's plain to see from just the capabilities directly displayed by her, the only defense against this monster's resolve is plot armor. So, absolute power corrupts absolutely. We ain't Ted talking that down. But is there anything we can do against it? While it may appear that this Death Star and legs don't got any stupid glowing weak points to speak of, yeah, no. You just gotta switch visors to see it. The problem with being a mutant freak lubed with Satan jelly is that, while your powers baffle common science, your weakness baffles common sense. How do you destroy Phazon? With Phazon. Huh? Okay. What? I get fight fire with fire is a popular phrase, but nobody takes it literally. Retro Studios does, cause turning Metroid Prime's own energy against it is the trademark strategy it always falls to. Phazon is so ridiculously chaotic and volatile that even a being that self-generates the stuff can't safely absorb it in constant quantities. Hilariously, this is thanks to a genetic defect within Prime, where too much phazonic discharge risks overloading her form and destabilizing the entire biomass. Well, that sucks. The gunk you're subjugating the free world with also throws you into anaphylactic shock. Admittedly, when you put it in a test tube, slip on some goggles, and squint, it checks out. Wall sockets blowing up, fat f***s going explode on buffet night. You get it. But I don't think anybody ever figured the key to killing such an authentically evil plague on the cosmos was replying back with "no you." But levity's a dying breed. I'll take it. The Exoform's weakness has the same kind of energy, where the only way to damage its exposed, uncomfortably human-like face is shooting it with the same beam it's currently shooting at you. Baby's first color match game with H.R. Geiger's pet spider beats Cocomelon. Dark Samus was marked for death by fun game design from the very start, but there is another more character-driven chink in her armor.
While her natural, or I guess unnatural, intelligence is concerningly high, she lacks discernible fighting skill. Try to mimic it as she might, this monstrously modified Metroid simply cannot replicate the real Samus's incredible combat education. This is what ultimately willed in her defeat. Samus had the organic self-taught experience of a storied warrior, and understood how to study patterns, strategize options, and uncover weak points. Dark Samus, as not even a 5-year-old sapient biohazard, leaned on her inherent power to brute force through encounters, which did work on everything except Miss Aran. It's like speaking anonymously versus speaking in public. Introverts are instantly nerfed. And yeah, the radioactive core of a living, breathing meteor is a little different from Mom's basement, but you're still sheltered. Socialize, young eldritch horror. I want to make something crystal clear. Evolution is an idea I support. I also believe change can be a good thing. But maybe not everything deserves it. Bestowing a solely instinctive creature that knows only kill to eat. Advanced psychological nuance is heart-sinkingly terrifying. Necessity turns to desire. Surviving turns to thriving. This happened to us, and we're paying for it. It happening to a jellyfish lamprey with rogue's draining powers means game the fuck over, man! Before it even vaguely resembled any person, the Metroid Prime was a calculative creep bent on universal domination. It traded instinctive parasitic feeding for sportful personalized violence, and engages her only threat, Samus, like no other simple animal of its makeup ever would. Look at this! It stays at a distance and shoots her, despite having a giant impenetrable carapace and Grim Reaper scythes for legs. That ain't instinct, that's strategy. And why this thing aims to selfishly conquer the cosmos is as frustratingly frightening as any evil human's non-excuse. Because I feel like it. And no, I don't buy that it's mentally ill, because it's the Phazon's instinct to spread and corrupt the galaxy, yet it was this monster's conscious choice to emotionally torture Samus and attempt to overtake the entire planet Phase to control every drop of Phazon in the entire universe. You go to your therapist with that and they're gonna have an instant fatal heart attack before even getting the chance to dial the SWAT team. I wish I could say that it's more complex, but when all we're given is deafening silence from something smart enough to laugh at its prey's personalized torment, maybe our evolved senses of sympathy are useless for survival after all. You gotta be a big deal to have an entire sub-series of a franchise that literally created its own genre named after you. And yes, from gargantuan feral chimera to man-like messiah of mass mutation, the Metroid Prime did not forcibly leave the mortal coil without carving a scary message onto it. Feats include indirectly ravaged Talon 4 with Phazon, compromising its natural and spiritual ecosystem on a frightening scale. Coalesced with fellow Leviathan spawns, the Ing, to strategically absorb energy and knowledge of the Phazon homeworld during the Aether Crisis. Corrupted a lot of creatures, turning them into slaves of her terrible malice and often fighting to the death with their bodies. Overtook both Ridley and a platoon of his pirates, all to aid in the collision course of a Leviathan seed. Corrupted the GFS Valhalla's Aurora unit, and remotely launched these living meteors at multiple planets, dealing God knows how much damage to the planets as a whole. Corrupted all of Samus's associate bounty hunters, forcing her to fight them. Killed, then molecularly devoured all 3 of them in her face, the fucking monster. Nearly fused with the entire planet Phase through the Aurora unit's uplink. Almost turned Samus into a goddamn supervillain, and on a more more lighthearted note, made it into Super Smash Bros. And is the only American-made character to ever grace the playable roster. That is legitimately impressive. For those who have never played these games, which are unfortunately not rare to find, Dark Samus may appear to be a substandard edgy clone straight out of an angsty 8th grader's notebook, but no. It's the thing keeping his distant father up at night scared shitless, cause he watched this video and I told it like it is a little too well. Maybe get him into Animal Crossing. No more Meteoroid for Papa. It's hard to tell if aliens are actually real, but it's easy as hell to tell some are real scary. Dark Samus is a cursed relic of a truly ancient malevolence, one that hides very well under the wig we've glued onto the idea of evil. The hairs you're splitting ain't its own, man. Pure evil don't give a shit about your lairs. And that's why bad guys who are bad for the sake of being bad, beings like Dark Samus, feel so wrong. They deactivate your control by just existing. You realize not everything's meaningful, and that's terrifying. This is one of the villains which epitomizes my grasp on that sensibility, and with an evolutionary journey identical to the very worst of our own kind, a simple animal turned dominant fiend of the world that willed it. It keeps me thinking, and now I have to go sit down. Care to share your thoughts on Dark Samus, Phil?
Hey, Mr. Minion and the nation itself. Glad to be here. Thanks for covering Dark Samus. I always was fascinated by how evil she is. Considering her origins, it's really terrifying to think about. All of this made her one of my favorite villains, and having you cover her is such an honor. Anyway, thanks again, and I'll be seeing ya. Good day, Minion Nation.
That was Unmasked. I'm Fawful's Minion, and you have my thanks. Farewell. And now, give it up for the high-tier patrons. Akuma Kuma, Alfredo Jones, Azazel the Undying, Brandon McDaniel, Buzzsaw the Righteous, Chibi Emiko, Clover Dragon, Cosmia, Cortamanch 437, Daniel Nance, Dark Lord Bloody Soul, Diamond Ice, Double N, Downey Dolphin, Eddie Toxpin, Egbert Milton, Emerald-192, Emily Infinite, Fencer de Rio, Flame Chocobo, Fog Weaver, Goldsbro TSG, Hero for Life, Jake the Snake Ironstorm, Jobot011, Kennethon, Kirby 484, Nightmare Steel, Kyle Wee 21, Lady Archimedes, Love, Lucario Smash 246, Luigi Fan 234, Mailman 019, Manias 3.0, Mathtron 5000, Matthew Smith, Mechamax, Morgan Arvite, Panther J, Patrick Sandlin, Peter Shepard, Pitterpalm CB, Renaku, Lord of Shadow, Rio the Mountain Hermit, Roberto del Fuego, Shining Silvally 777, Sinistar Man, Skellington 977, Sobata 92, Spencer Studios, Steel Joe 1120, The Ultimate Sora, Tubazo 1989, Zay Zandler, Luigi the Waddle Dee, Mitchell Roberts, Muntry, Nova Strife, Philip Cross, Shade, Augie and Panichu, Crunchy Boy, and Greninja Gray. May we meet again!